Good evening and welcome to the Milford Board of Selectmen's meeting for December 3rd, 2018. First agenda item is the signing of the warrant,
Motion to approve?
and I would make that unanimous. Next agenda item is the approval of the November 19th minutes,
I'll make a motion to approve.
and I would vote and make that unanimous as well. Next agenda item is invitation to speak. Is anybody here for invitation to speak? Yes,
Come on up.
come on right up front. Just for the record, if you could identify yourself, please.
Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Sasha Meyer.
Eric Meyer.
So we're just here to follow up if you guys have any information about what's going on with the sewer issues in town.
I would have to say, we'll turn that over to any update you have on it.
Yeah, I do not have any update from the sewer commission. I assume that they're gonna deal directly, I hope, with you at this point. Obviously, if there are any claims, then those would come through the Board of Selectmen.
Okay. Do you know if I need to get in touch with them directly or if this is something that you can help us with?
Well, they're elected officials on their own, so you really should be dealing with them. We can, help in any way, but they're an elected department themselves.
Okay, so my question though that I was gonna just ask you was if we need to have documentation from them for our insurance, like a letter stating that it's not gonna happen again, that's something they have to produce, that's something you can't
That would-
produce,
that
correct?
would
You
come
would have to
from them.
request that from them.
From them.
Okay,
Correct.
Yeah, yeah.
If I can, this is where town government is so different from city government because it's all the different departments and factions and, independently elected boards. I'm
Okay.
sorry I missed you. I know that my two colleagues were, let me know that you guys did show to the commissioners meeting.
Yeah, that's okay. All right, so,
I mean, I just don't want to see it go away. I mean, people start being quiet and then it gets forgot about and then 2 years down the road, it happens again. I mean, if it's a maintenance thing, they haven't really said it's a maintenance thing. I don't know. And it seems like they're, to
we
me,
haven't gotten a lot of feedback, that's
no,
why we're
it's
here.
just- they sent us a handwritten graph paper that they checked the main every morning and said, water flowing good. So, I mean, if that's the report we're getting, I guess we're all set. I mean, I'm not banking on a piece of paper with chicken scratch on it, but I don't know I don't think anybody else would either, so.
So what I tell you I will do, I will reach out to the chairman tomorrow,
Okay,
and then I'll share with him your concerns,
okay,
and make sure that he as well reaches out to you, and I will get back to you by the end of the day as well.
okay,
All right, but again, they're an independently elected board, so, you have to deal with them. That doesn't
When
mean.
you call them, they're not too, I mean, we've called them, not too receptive. I mean, I've never called them to say, hey, how's it going? I've only called them to say what's going on,
And that's at the office?
yeah.
Sewer department, yeah, I mean, so, like I said, I don't want it to go away,
Right.
because that's
right.
what, that's
Understandable,
human nature.
and we don't either. We don't either.
Do you have my contact information or do you need it?
What's your cell phone?
I
Why don't you-
will
why
give
don't
you my
you-
business card.
Yeah,
I will
why-
give you my business card.
Okay, you just give it to me.
Yeah. Yeah, just write it here.
And they keep talking about this I study of the whole sewer system, and I mean, they throw that out there, and we all don't know what an I, but I know it's a global
Yes, that's my cell phone.
of the whole system.
Yes.
But I don't think this was a whole system problem. I think this was a pinpointed problem. Obviously, it was one section of their sewer. I mean, so you can do all the global studies you want, but you got to maintain your sewer system. But I can't tell them that. I got no clout over the sewer department. So that's all I.
So right now, I guess the only thing we wanted you to know is we haven't heard anything besides the little bit of piece of paper that they forwarded to us that wasn't very comforting in a sense. And I know my insurance company is requesting documentation that it won't happen again so that they don't drop me for insurance. So I just need communication.
I will make sure that somebody definitely gets back to you tomorrow, and then I will, like I said, get back to you myself.
Okay,
All right?
that works.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you, good luck, guys.
Thanks.
Anybody else here for invitation to speak? Next agenda item is public hearings. First public hearing is National Grid and Verizon relocating of joint poles. Anybody that, this is a public hearing, so anybody that would like to respond after the presentation is more than welcome to. Sir?
My name is Michael Parent. I'm the designer for National Grid out of Hopedale, Massachusetts. And I'm here about a DOT project which would involve National Grid relocating and setting back a majority of poles on Main Street between Daniel Street and Nelson Heights. It looks like from the corner of Daniel Street and Main Street, we're moving a pole off the corner and back 5 feet, and then subsequently moving the next sequential poles over to widen the road. At the corner of Cape Road and Main Street, we're taking those poles off the corners as well. We're relocating them back and widening the road. And same continues down the line to Nelson Heights, moving the poles back off the corner and off to the side to widen the road. Subsequent work, it looks like we're just taking some poles off corners at Main Street and Green Street, as well as Main Street and Chapin Street, and Main Street and Hollis Street, just taking the poles off the corners.
Go.
No, I mean, this is pretty straightforward. This goes in turn with the whole Route 16 project. I know it needs to get done, so I certainly don't have any questions. It was one thing if there were some neighbors or the hospital here for some reason to comment, which I'm not sure, Bogey,
Right.
if you're going to or not. But
You're more than welcome to come forward if you'd like.
as far as I'm concerned, if the project's going to move forward, then this is a piece of that, so.
Joe Woznowski with the hospital. And Baskin Bojazian with the hospital. We just actually.
Welcome.
Yep, Chairman, we just
Thank
were
you.
just curious to see, we know we got the paperwork in the, in our hands, and we were looking at some of the pole placements. We were kind of talking about how the poles are being placed, because I know for that piece of property we have at the intersection, potentially we're gonna be doing something in that property in the future, and we just want to work with National Grid as far as placement, as far as making sure the curb cut that's kind of was proposed, that's been kind of accepted, or at least recognized in that location, is not blocked, so we don't have to deal with this pole afterwards in some fashion, so.
Mr. Parent, sorry.
Go ahead, no, go right ahead.
Mr. Parent, do you know if, you guys are following, I imagine, the same plan that's been presented to us from Mass DOT and everything? Okay, so, and those curb cuts are,
It doesn't show on this particular drawing. We'd have to go deeper into the bigger drawing, have to have a chance to look at it, or even talk with the town engineer, Michael Dean, to see what, what they have on record to make sure. So I just want to make sure we're all on the same page as far as where they place. And they are moving, two of them about 42 feet, which is a great distance. And I just don't know how it shows in in this particular small drawing relates to the bigger drawing in general.
okay.
So,
I think any issues that we would have with people in the area that, something crops up, they're like, hey, they didn't take this into consideration here, whatever. DOT and National Grid work to try and make it fit, right? So if for some reason it's off by like a few feet and it works into our plan where we can still move it a few feet, then we'll accommodate that. And I would assume DOT would change their plans, and then we would just change our design to meet those plans. So I could have the person in charge of the project get in touch with the hospital and make sure they're covered, make sure there's nothing wrong there. And if they need to revise it, they can revise it.
And are you gentlemen comfortable with that?
yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
And I just say that because we've worked, very closely with the hospital. We want to
Yes.
make sure that whatever
we
we do,
thank
we
you.
get
No.
done
And-
correctly. And I don't want Bogey calling me at home.
I think what's important too is they've already started the road work, so we, you know, the project's going forward, so.
Correct.
We just want to make sure that we're all good neighbors.
Yep, and that's what we were doing too, so.
And I
no,
know
it's
everything
great.
you've done at the hospital's always been first class, so.
Appreciate that, thank you.
Yeah.
That's my concern primarily is timing,
Okay.
okay? And to some extent that the polls is part of that, but more clearly is when would they be working up in our area? Because there are several things that we at the hospital have to do in anticipation of what ultimately is going to happen with the property on the corner. Now, we've met with the towns, we met with town council and the town manager once. We've also met with the town's appraiser. There's an appraiser, because there are going to be land takings in order to, we've met with the appraiser for the town. We haven't met with the appraiser for the state yet. And my understanding is, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is that we're at 90% drawings. I'm not quite sure what the
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, I think
We're
the
almost
last we
there.
saw
Yeah,
was
okay.
90%, yeah.
And once Joe and I haven't reviewed those drawings yet. I think at that time, we'll take a close look at the curb cut, number one, and then we're definitely anticipating hearing back from the appraiser. I don't know whether the town gets back to us once the appraiser, that's Mr. Curley?
Mr. Curley is the
Mr. Curley
appraiser,
did the
town
appraiser.
council would be the one who would
Okay,
contact you, yes.
okay. And the state, we haven't, they haven't even scheduled a meeting with us yet to just, we're not discussing dollars, we're just discussing scope with these people. So we have to, so we know what's going to be expected of us as a hospital. I mean, our primary concern is not the land, our primary concern is not the curb cut, the primary concern is timing as it affects our emergency services and access to the hospital during construction, which is absolutely paramount. We're fortunate at Milford Regional that we have at least two entrances,
Right.
but they're both within the construction site. One's on 16 and one's on 140. So, and we're working very, very closely with town manager and town council on it.
Well, thank you.
Timing is my big thing.
But like I said earlier, everything you've done at the hospital's always been first class, so I'm sure this will just be another project that'll go.
All of that's thanks to Joe.
Now, you gotta
was you,
take some
Bogey.
credit, Bogey, you gotta take
Yes,
some
a
credit.
lot of credit.
So,
That's all we had. We just want to make sure we kept the communications open. Nice to meet someone. We have a contact. Now we'll work forward.
great motion.
Yeah, that'd be just a motion, relocate the poles according to the
No, and I'll make the motion to approve the petition for the joint and identical pole locations as presented on Main Street for the Route 16 Mass DOT project.
And I would make that unanimous.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good night. Nice to see you.
Good night, thank you.
Good night now.
Nice to meet you.
You too. Take care.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you very much.
Joe, thank you. Yeah, we'll talk to you. Anything you need, you know. Yeah, as far as timing, we'll sit with you. You'll know what's going on in advance. Okay? Okay.
All right. Next agenda item is scheduled appointments. Warren, if you won't mind waiting 1 second, I'm just going to move David ahead of you. Please, David, come on up, please, I should say. Okay, David, you're here for an application amended for pledge of collateral.
That's correct.
So basically, I talked to Rick earlier today, it's just you're changing banks.
I had changed banks a couple months ago, just this is the last little piece of the project to just change the pledge from Milford National to Citizens.
I will make the motion to approve you transferring the pledge from Milford National Citizens Bank.
And I would make that unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thanks, David.
Have a good night. Take care.
We'll see you, David.
Next scheduled appointment is our Human Resources Director, Maureen Giffen. How are you?
Good, how are you? Thank you. So as you know, I've been tasked with drafting policies for the town. So I've identified over 50 that will need to be writing overtime, so lots of work to be done. I'm prioritizing and grouping according to sort of topic that makes sense, and I'll present those to you in groups. Some of these are to make sure that we're in compliance with state and federal law. Others are really to make sure that we have fair and consistent treatment for all of our employees and to just create a better work environment. So I'm continuing to work on those. As you know, the last time I brought the Family Medical Leave Act, the reason I prioritized that is because we had a couple of employees who were eligible for FMLA and wanted to make sure we had everything in place, and that's gone really well. We actually have somebody who's already gone on FMLA and come back from that as well. So all of those provisions have worked out just fine. The 4 new policies that I'm bringing today are all related in one way or another to that, so that's why I thought I would bundle them together. Last time when I brought FMLA, there were some decision points that I had asked for you to make. There are none in here, other than just adopting them and agreeing that we can put them into an employee handbook at some time. So I'll go through just very quickly what they are. I don't have any kind of presentation. I didn't think it was needed. The Mass Parental Leave Act. I talked about that last time with FMLA because they run concurrently. Mass parental leave allows 8 weeks of leave, and FMLA has 12 weeks. So we just make sure that these are tied in with FMLA and that all the provisions of one, which supersede the other, are all recognized in each one of those laws. The second one is the Small Necessities Leave Act. Again, it's another state law. It's a little bit different than the others. It provides for up to 24 hours within a year for employees who need to take time off for very specific reasons. It's generally to take a child to a doctor's appointment or a school event or some sort of parent-teacher meeting, or to take an elderly parent or someone to doctors and dentist appointments. These are done on 1-hour increments, so it's a little bit different than the standard we do in the town. So I've created a template that I can use to work with the managers for tracking all of those, and I would manage that going forward. It's really intended to be used after someone has exhausted all their paid time off. It's unpaid time anyway, but first you would use all of your sick, personal, and vacation time, and then if you still had a need, we would use the small necessities to adopt that one. The third one is the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act. That's a relatively new act for Massachusetts. It was rolled out in April timeframe. And all I've done is sort of rewrite the law to fit within our own templates. And we're already in compliance. We have a new mom in town hall, and we've already created a parent's room or a mother's room upstairs, and it's being utilized. That's worked out really well. I'm working with the employee and management to make sure everybody understands their responsibilities and their rights throughout the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act. So that's going very smoothly as well. Now, those 3 are very specific standards. You'll also see in the examples I gave you, I created a new template. So I've run all of these by both our town administrator and by town council. And that first paragraph is sort of the language to ensure that if there are any kind of union or contract or other collective bargaining agreements that would supersede any of those, that's acknowledged in there. And then I've also created sort of a header at the top of these templates that show whether it's a new policy or a revision and what that date looks like. And that's important when I have the next piece of the conversation. So the last policy I wanted to talk about was the maternity leave. And I actually came across this in the personnel bylaws. And when I first read it, I realized it's definitely not in compliance with any of the current laws. And so I tried to investigate a little bit to find out when it was written and where it came from. And what I learned is that it was written probably so long ago that no one remembers when it was written. And so it needed to be updated and just brought into compliance with FMLA and parental leave. So my original instinct was to just ask that we remove the whole thing because it's not really as relevant. But there's one stipulation in there that sort of caught my eye, and that was that employees are entitled or allowed to take up to a year of maternity leave with approval from their appointing authority. And that's not covered under any law anywhere. That's a Milford town decision. So I brought this to the personnel board just to make sure that they were comfortable since I was changing something within their own bylaws. So they've all approved the rewrite that I've done, and the agreement was that I would bring it before you to make sure that you are comfortable with it as well. And then the intent would be to take all of these and put them into an employee handbook along with all the other policies that I'm drafting.
Maureen, do you, excuse me.
Oh, no, go right ahead.
Is there anything, when you went to the personnel board, was there anything that we have to bring to town meeting to remove or change in the bylaws themselves? Or is that standing that, or there's,
So it was just sort of to tweak it, like, I think it references in here that it's, like, employees are entitled to up to 6 weeks of the disability. Well, that's not true anymore because parental leave allows 8 and FMLA allows 12. So what I did instead was take out all the language that was specific and no longer applicable. And what I do is reference back to that the town abides by all FMLA and parental leave. And that sort of brings us right up to, without putting any specifics in there, that brings us back in there. I wouldn't expect that anything was needed beyond a decision here, but you might.
We can check with town council,
yeah, because
just to make sure.
changing the bylaw, the language of the
They
bylaw,
require
I would
town
think
meeting.
we'd have to.
Correct.
Which doesn't affect,
Sure.
this decision, but to formalize it.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that was the only reason I didn't know if the personnel board made a recommendation on that.
Okay, and I left the 1 year in there, should it come up for a decision, that would just, the appointing authority would decide how that would work, and then we would implement that as appropriate.
That was my question to you. Were you looking to change the one you're not
I
looking
left it in there, no, we talked about it at the last personnel board meeting. I didn't see a reason to remove it. I would expect that it would be a rare circumstance when someone would ask for that. It's unpaid leave, and it would depend on the type of role that they held at the town and how long we could go without that role coverage. So each of those would be taken as a one-off decision, so I didn't feel the need to remove it completely. I thought it was fine to leave it with that provision that it needed to be approved by the appointing authority.
It is unique that, again, the sewer department could vote to do that, the board of selectmen could not, the health board could. I mean, it's obviously inconsistent from that standpoint, but each appointing authority certainly has their own, I guess, should have their own authority to do so. So, okay, that's interesting, I didn't realize that.
I will say, though, it's a pleasure to see that we now have a department in town that's looking at all the policies that have to do with, employees and fine-tuning all the policies. It's a breath of fresh air.
Good. I'm
So
glad.
thank you. Good- Very good job. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Maureen. And again, I'm relatively familiar with these because I have to approve them at my workplace. And again, it's just interesting that, again, we've come this far and now we have you to take care of all
Just to
these things.
formalize it
Because
all.
it is amazing to me that we've gotten to, 2018 without some of
Exactly.
these things.
At least this will help standardize it, and having one sort of template that we use for all of them that ensures that down the road, when someone says, I wonder when this went into effect, they can look it up and the date will be on there.
No, that's great.
Well, I also think what's important, and I spoke about it before, is to, as a manager, is have the ability to have an employee come to you and ask you a question when you're in the course of doing business on a daily basis. You get somebody that's questioning why their driveway isn't plowed after a 2-day snowstorm, and now somebody catches you off guard about, I'm going to Florida next week. You say, oh, no, you have to go see Maureen to get that question asked, And like Will, I deal with it all day long at work, and it's so much better to say, that's not a question for me, that's a question for human resources, and you can go right over there and, so
And
the
I'm
right.
getting a lot of foot traffic, so it's great.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So again, great job.
Thank you.
Well, I will make a motion that the Board of Selectmen adopt the Mass Parental Leave Act, the Small Necessities Leave Act, the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act, and the updated maternity leave, as presented by our Human Resources Director, Maureen Giffen.
I would make that unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah. Next agenda item is the Town Administrator's Report.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just 3 items tonight. First, I just want to thank the Facilities Director, Carlos Benjamin, members of the Fire Department, Highway Surveyor Scott Christofouli, and members of his department. As you noticed, the Christmas banners and the wreaths along Main Street have been put up, and again, their efforts are most appreciated. They were out there about one very cold night, and then a second night that was a little bit warmer, so I just want to thank them. 2 other items. One, I'm pleased to report the town received an IT grant as part of the Community Compact, as put forth by Governor Baker administration. The grant is in the amount of $12,500, and it's going to be used to update the library website. I want to specifically thank IT Director Andy Diorio and Library Director Sue Edmonds, as they were the 2 individuals that used their efforts and hard work in securing this grant. So it'd be very similar to what we did with the grant that we received to update our website. So thank you to them. And then I do want to report that regarding the downtown facade program, the town has received the sum of $75,000 from the state earmark to be used for this program. As the board knows, this is one half of the total earmark of $150,000. We will now begin the process of receiving applications from downtown property owners and working with both the committee and the architect, and if it's necessary, our grant planner, to approve eligible projects. So hopefully, we're going to hit the ground running with that project and move forward. Again, this is one half. We don't receive the second half until a number of forms have been filed closer to the end of the fiscal year. So that's good news for us. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Will?
No questions.
I have no.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rick.
Thanks.
Okay, next agenda item is old business. Do you have any old
I don't.
business? I don't as well. Next agenda item is new business, and if I could, real quick, I'd like to send a shout out to the Milford Rotary for the nice job that they did directing the trees across the street from Sacred Heart Church. They did it last Friday. Really, really nice job. You drive by there at night, it's all lit up, so I wanted to send a special thank you to the Rotary. And then I want to send, again, this year, another special thank you to the Milford Firefighters Association for the Santa Parade. Nice evening, very well done, very well attended. And just wanted to say thank you to the Milford Fire Department, Milford Firefighters Association for all their efforts, and the Milford Police and anybody else that was involved in it to help put it together. Thank you to all of you. It makes Milford a very unique community to live in. And with that, next is the license renewals.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a number of motions regarding the license renewals. The first is for the automatic amusement. There are 10 applicants, and I'd like to make a motion that we approve all 10 for automatic amusement.
I would make that unanimous.
There are 4 applicants up for renewal for boarding licenses. I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I would make that unanimous.
There are 6 applicants for Class 1 licenses, renewals. I'd like to make that a motion that we approve.
I would make that unanimous as well.
There are 29 applicants, 28 of them are up to date on their property taxes. I'd like to vote to approve the 28 that are up to date on their property taxes.
And I would make that unanimous as well, holding out one.
There is 1 applicant for renewal for a Class 3 license. I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I would make that unanimous as well.
There are 49 applicants for renewal for common vitular. I'll make a motion that we approve those 49 applicants.
And I would vote unanimous as well.
There are 34 applicants for common vitular all alcoholic, 31 of which are up to date on their property taxes. I'd like to make a motion to approve those 31.
And I would make that unanimous as well.
There are 4 applicants for renewal for common vitular wine and malt restaurant. I'll make a motion to approve those 4.
And I would vote unanimous as well.
There are 2 applicants for renewal for common vitular wine and malt and cordial licenses. I'll make a motion to approve those 2.
I would make that unanimous as well.
There are 14 applicants for renewal for an entertainment license. I'll make a motion to approve.
I would vote affirmative as well. Unanimous, I should say.
We have 1 applicant for renewal for a farmer brewer's license. I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I would make that unanimous as well.
We have 1 applicant for renewal for a fortune teller license. I'll make a motion to approve.
I would make that unanimous.
There are 7 applicants for renewal for retail package all alcoholic. I'll make a motion to approve.
Make that vote unanimous as well.
There are 11 applicants for renewal for retail package wine and malt, 10 of which are up to date on their property taxes. I'd like to make a motion to approve those 10.
I would vote unanimous as well.
There are 11 applicants for application for extension of serving hours on New Year's Eve. I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I would make that unanimous as well.
I'd also like to make a motion to schedule a hearing on Monday, December 17th, 2018, for each of the license holders who owe taxes. And that number is 5 of them.
And I would vote unanimous as well. Okay, next agenda item on the new business, Rick, is from the police chief.
Yes, we had a resident who was requesting a handicap parking space in the front of 55 Pearl Street. We have confirmed the resident does have a valid HP placard. The police chief did confirm this, and I believe he recommends that the Board of Selectmen authorize the placement of that.
Yeah, I do have the chief's letter right here. I would recommend that the Board of Selectmen authorize the placement of a handicap parking space in front of 55 Pearl Street. The resident at this address has a valid handicap placard issued by the Massachusetts Registry of Motor Vehicles. So the chief is in favor,
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
and I would make that unanimous as well. And the next agenda item is correspondence. Will, do you have any correspondence?
I do not.
Rick?
No, I have no further correspondence.
We do have a letter here from Comcast. I'm not going to read the whole letter, but basically, all of us at Comcast are committed to delivering the entertainment and services our customers in your community rely on today, and the new experiences they will love in the future. As we continue to invest in our network, products, and services, the cost of doing business rises. One of our largest costs, and one that continues to increase, is the fees we pay to programmers so that they can continue to offer the best in entertainment, news, and sports. As a result, starting December 20th, 2018, prices for certain services and fees will be increasing, including the broadcast TV fee, the regional sports network fee. Please see the enclosed customer service notices for information. Now, is the general public going to get, or I should say, Rick, do you know if the Comcast customers will get?
I believe they do get them probably within an invoice or a billing statement,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
If anybody would like them, though, they certainly could request them, and I'd be happy to provide it.
Okay, thank you. Well,
No questions.
and we do not have an executive session this evening.
No executive session, Mr.
With
Chairman.
that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And I would make that unanimous as well. Good night, everybody, and thank you for watching.